Hey everyone, welcome back to Lowkey Not a podcast. Today I am truly honored to have one of my oldest friends here. We grew up in elementary school together.
Yeah.
I think we were in the same kindergarten class.
Yeah, I think so.
Mrs. Arsberger, right?
No, I had Shoddy.
Oh dang, I had Arsberger.
So either way, from the get go,
we went to a small school, so basically we were in the same class.
Yeah, that's true.
But one of my oldest friends here, and it's Christmas time. I think when I'm releasing this, Christmas is literally like in 2 days. So I'm so excited to talk about and just dive in deep on your mom's passing and grief and just how this time of year can suck sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's hard. And so, so we're just going to talk about that. And hopefully, if anyone is grieving or if you relate to any of this at all, it's helpful. If not, I don't know what to tell you. We're going to talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and if you want to share anything about your mom, like how she passed away and I don't know,
yeah, sure.
any details.
So my name's Sarah. I went to Western Beaver with Amanda, went to Youngstown State, graduated during COVID, which was an awful time for everyone, I think. I've been working in chemical manufacturing for the last couple of years, so that's kind of what I do for work. I have a Norwegian elkhound, Lowkey, my little fur baby. He's been with me through a lot of trauma, so
Yeah.
he's my soul dog. I've recently got into houseplants. I now have 35 houseplants.
Oh my gosh.
But it's great. It's been a really good coping mechanism with grief. So shout out to my friend Lauren for getting me into houseplants.
Yeah.
Otherwise, not anything super exciting. I go to church. I have some really great friends that have been with me through all of this. And that's pretty much the short snippet of who I am. Nothing super crazy.
Yeah.
So with my mom was diagnosed with cancer back in 2014. So she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She actually had 3 different types of breast cancer in her right side. She still was a volleyball mom. She still was doing concession stands. She was still doing scouts, anything to stay involved. She wasn't going to let that cancer diagnosis define who she was.
Yeah.
So she still stayed super, super involved with everything. We had surgery. She did chemo and radiation. It went away. She went in remission for 5 years. It was fine. It came back on the outside of her ovaries. So now it's a stage 4 instead of stage 3. So now it's not ovarian cancer. It's still the breast cancer. So she just had a hysterectomy. Was like, I don't need this. I'm 50 some years old.
Yeah.
Take them. If that's what's going to get rid of this cancer, I don't want it.
Yeah.
So they did that, and she was fine for 5 years. And then January of 2023, she went in for routine blood work. She had blood work and scans every 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And her cancer marker just came back high. It could just be nothing. We were on a new medication, so whatever. She went to have that done, do a PET scan or a CAT scan or whatever it was, and they found it in the lymph nodes behind where her ovaries used to be. So this cancer was just very, very aggressive. So she started 2 different types of oral chemo. That just completely brought her down. I think you had every side effect that you hear on those stupid commercials.
Yeah.
That's what she got.
Yeah.
But she was still very positive through all of it. She's like, I beat it twice. I'm going to beat it a 3rd time. It's fine. I'm going to I'm still making plans when I feel better. We're going to get together and we're going to do stuff.
Yeah.
So then in October is kind of when it all started. She was in the hospital for 2 weeks and then out, and then in the hospital and then out. So what the cancer ended up doing was sticking to her intestines and just couldn't she couldn't eat anything. So she wasn't getting any nutrition. It was really hard to take medication unless it was through the IV or the port. The port had problems. It's just one thing after another, being in a hospital, being around other sick people, just not great. But she ended up going into hospice the first week of December. It was December 6th or 7th or something like that. It was going to be inpatient hospice, so that was at the medical center upstairs. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I want to do a prayer and hymn service. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll arrange it. You want live music? We'll get live music here. Whatever you want, we'll do. So the hospice people were great. They got us this suite upstairs. My pastor and his wife are very musically talented. He sings and plays the guitar. Kelly always sings at church. So they came. I made little music packets. She picked out the songs that she wanted to sing.
Yeah.
We had people that like a whole mass of people from high school, like teachers, family, everyone showed up. She's like, I want to have food. My best friend Skylar dropped what she was doing, drove from Virginia Beach, and was there like the next day. So she came to my house, cleaned my house, made me dinner, like helped make food for this party that we're gonna have in hospice for my mom. So you're doing that all on Friday. So then Saturday rolls around, we have all these people over, and she lets Nathaniel, she opens and she goes, all right, Stan and I want to thank you for like showing up today. She's like, we're not going to be doing a funeral. We're not going to be doing a viewing. Everyone knows I'm dying. So if you want to see me while I'm alive. And if that doesn't like speak to her, like her sense of humor, her like sick, twisted sense of humor. Yeah. But like, I get it. Like, why go to a viewing and say your words to someone that's no longer here? They can't hear you. Yeah. You know? So she opened with that, and then she goes, we're going to do some singing, we're going to do some praying, and then we're going to do some eating. And she goes, all right, Nathaniel, go ahead. Turns it over to my pastor to start. He opens with a word of prayer. And then she had like a little like synopsis for every story for like the old rugged cross and great is thy faithfulness and it is well with my soul. And what was the fourth one we sang? Precious Lord, take my hand. And like before every song, she had her own little like, you know, devotional that she wanted to say about it. And then when she was done, she's like, all right, I think that's enough praying, enough singing. Skylar and Sarah, thanks for making food. Go enjoy yourselves. Like, and just had people come and talk to her and like, in and out. And she had like such a great rally. Like she was so energetic. She was leading. She was singing so loudly. And we're like, okay, like maybe this is going to be the turn. But you come to know in hospice that people usually have an uptick in how they're acting before, you know, they have like a crash. But her rally was so strong. Yeah. And her faith was unshakable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I am probably going to cry during this. So like, I'm going to try not to be super teary. No. But like when I talk about my faith, like through all of this is like what gets me emotional. Yeah. But she was like so strong. She knew where she was going. She was saved. She knew salvation. She knew who Jesus was. And just like to see her faith through all of that was crazy, you know? Because she was like, you're miserable. You can't eat. You can't drink. Like, I know. You feel like you're bloated 24/7. You know, you can barely do things on your own, you know? From someone that was so independent and you need help walking around, you know? Like that's, to have that transition, you know, is really hard. So we didn't do a viewing. We didn't do a funeral. She wanted to be cremated. So that's what we did. Yeah. My dad picked out this really pretty purple urn with like hummingbirds on it. I think she would love it. So that's where she stays. She had given permission to like my sister and I. Some people get like the jewelry with like the ashes in it or whatever. She's like, if you want to do that, that's totally fine. And I was like, I would feel weird having like mom's pinky toe around my neck because I don't know.
You don't know what part of her it is.
Yeah, it's like, here's your femur or your left butt cheek. Like, I don't know. You know, so I don't think my sister and I are going to go that route. But I do have like her wedding ring that I wear on my neck every day. I have all of her jewelry, so like I can wear that and like think of her. My work was super great. They got me this like real pretty indoor wind chime. It's like wooden on a stand. And this angel tapestry, so like that's kind of in the corner of my house with like some pictures of my mom, just like a little memorial area. But yeah, she was like a great person. It sucks that like she had to go through all of that. Yeah. I think like between my dad and I and my sister and like my grandma, we are all like just give us a piece of it or like give it to someone that can fight it. You know what I mean? Like I'm young and healthy. Give it to me. I got this. You know. Which she would never wish that on anyone. No. But you know, it is what it is. We all have different battles that God gives us, and for me, it's been helpful to help other people that are going through the same thing. And it's like you're not crazy. Like you're allowed to feel these emotions are going to be wild. And just to see like how many people truly do have this type of trauma in their life, and you don't realize until like you go through it and you're willing to talk about it. Yeah. Like how awful it is. But
no, it's important too. I think like you being vulnerable, it's like showing people that it's okay, and like it's okay to have like every day is not the same, and like it's okay to have a bad day, right? And like I think too, like I feel like when we're going through trauma and like hurt and grief, even too, whether it's a family member or someone far away that we're grieving, I think it's so important too to remember that like it's okay to like fall apart, and it's okay to not have it all together and to be perfect, and you're allowed to grieve. Like I think too, sometimes when we look at people and we're like, oh, like your mom passed away, and like I know, like, so like when I had my miscarriage, I know it was really hard for me to grieve because I was like, I didn't know the kid. I was only 7 weeks pregnant. Like they said like between 6 and 8 weeks pregnant. So I would just say 7 weeks, but like 7 weeks pregnant. I'm like, it wasn't really like, you know, in the way the doctors talked, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you feel like, so you being like open about it and saying like, this is how I am. And people are like, oh wow, like I really relate to that. Like that plays such a big role in people's life.
And you can sit in grief. Like my therapist tells me like, it's okay to just sit and feel sad. Yeah. Don't let yourself stay there. You know, but it's okay to sit and feel those feelings, because I like to distract myself. I distract myself with anything and everything so I don't feel sad. It's like, oh, I can't feel sad because I'm busy doing this, or oh, I'm out with people. I can't be the Debbie Downer today. I have to go. I have to put on a face and be, you know, and then you be excited and be happy and be the, you know, go getter. And then you go home and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I just pretended like all day for these people, for what? Yeah, you know. And like grief will come in different ways. Like I remember, after she passed, like crying over tomato soup and grilled cheese, like a recipe that came across on TikTok or Facebook or something. And I was like, she would have loved this. So like now I'm crying over a grilled cheese sandwich. And it's like, that's so stupid. Which it's not stupid, but it's just funny. Like things that you like would think or wouldn't think would make you think of someone.
They like sneak up on you.
And they sneak up on you, So I remember I was cleaning out the, this was more recent. This was back in like September. I was cleaning out, or maybe October, cleaning out the camper. And my parents bought a camper when I went to college, because like we're not tent camping anymore. We used to tent camp for like 2 weeks at a time over the summer. That was our family vacation every year. Yeah. They finally bought a camper so they could have AC and not be in a tent when it rained. Fair enough, whatever. So my dad like begrudged this camper. He's like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to do the maintenance on it. My mom loved to camp, and she would just my dad would take the trailer somewhere, drop it. My mom would stay there for a week or two, whatever. She'd live, you know, have fun. We always played board games, card games, board games, whatever. So as I'm like cleaning out the camper, I'm like unpacking all of these board games, and I'm just sitting there crying over these board games. And again, it comes down to like, I need a distraction. Like I'm going to sit and be sad about these board games, and then I'm never going to play a game with her again. Yeah. Okay. It's the reality of the situation, and that you have to live with that. You can't change it, you know? But I was like, I need a distraction. I just need to go be around people. I can't be alone, you know? And so that's what I did. But as long as you're not using that, like, I guess, unhealthy coping mechanisms with, like, being distracted and, you know, turning to drink or anything like that. Because I definitely have, like, this month has been a little hard, realistically. But it's, like, in the moment, it's a distraction, and it's a great distraction. The next day, you feel like garbage. So it's, like, for what? Yeah. So just finding, like, healthy coping mechanisms, whether it's reading or crocheting. If you are going to need to be around people, go with someone that will, like, hold you accountable. And like not leave you to, you know, put yourself in a bad situation or something like that. And I'm so grateful that I have such a great village here that checks in on me and will take me out, or just like if I need someone at my house, they'll be there in 10 minutes, you know? Yeah. So I'm very, very fortunate to like have a village like that around here.
Yeah, I think it's so important with anything. Even when there's like any like trauma in your life, it's important to have people around you who can hold you accountable. And I think that's the thing that like, that's like the hardest thing to do. It's to like hold yourself accountable, to get people in your life to hold you accountable, because I feel like we don't want people to see our flaws. Right. And like too, when you're really going through it, you don't want people telling you like what you're doing wrong. Like you don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. So it's like, you have to really like swallow your pride and be like, well,
you could just use grief as an excuse. Like, well, I'm going to go do this, make a fool of myself because I'm sad. So that's okay. It's not. You still have to live with the consequences of the things you do when you're feeling an emotion. And you're allowed to feel those emotions. Yeah. But you have to be okay with, like, people's perceptions of you, you know, when you are that way. You know what I mean? You can only control how you feel, and they can control how they feel, but you can't control how you make them feel. You know what I mean?
No, so for sure.
It's definitely having boundaries and like a good understanding, and having a core group of people that you can definitely like go to. Yeah. Therapy is also great. I started going to therapy, and their job is to listen to you. And you can give them all the goods, bads, uglies, whatever, and it is what it is. And there's like no burden. You know, sometimes you feel burdened talking to your friends. It's like, you know, they're also having a bad time. They're going through something. Yeah. So why am I going to talk about what I'm going through? You know, it's not fair to put that on someone else. So that's definitely been helpful. So if anyone's like thinking about therapy, go to 1 or 2 sessions. It's not going to be an instant fix. may never actually be a fix, but
Yeah.
at least someone else can give you perspectives on what to do or like coping mechanisms or things to do and talk about, because that definitely helps.
Yeah, and they can't judge you.
I'm sure she does silently, but out loud she definitely does not. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not allowed to talk to you about other people. So
Right.
whereas your friends, they'll talk to you about
Yeah, that is true.
they'll talk about you to other people,
Yeah.
even though it's out of love.
Right. Yeah.
But have you seen the show? Do you have Apple TV?
I don't.
There is a show with Jason Segel. I think that's his name. I always say it wrong. But it's called Shrinking.
Oh.
And he's a therapist.
Okay.
Hence Shrinking.
Yeah, I get.
And he loses his wife.
Oh.
And like they have a daughter who's like, I think she's like 16 or 17 in the show. And he goes like, you jump in on the show and it's like a year after his wife passed away, and he's like basically like he sobbed, slept around, like did stupid stuff for like a year, and now he's like gonna get his life back together.
Right.
But I don't know. I like the show is like, it's like funny like watching it because it's just like so real and realistic, and like they did such a good job of like he's allowed to have a bad day, and like his friends like call him out, and it's his two like people that he like goes to because he's a therapist are also therapists.
Right.
So they like talk about, and it's like funny, he like works through his trauma like through his patients. Which is probably not recommended. Being when you're getting
It's
paid,
entertaining.
yeah, it's entertaining, which probably is not realistic and not a good thing to do. But it's really funny because on the show, Harrison Ford is in it.
Oh, okay.
And he is the other therapist, and he tells Jason Segel, he and his daughter, that to do this thing, it's called like you take 15 minutes, you grieve really hard.
Yeah.
And like you play music, grieve really hard, like listen to music that like reminds you of the person who passed away or like helps you through the moment, grieve really hard, and then you're done.
Right.
And like move on with the rest of your day. And he said like he does that like every day, and he told them to like do it every day.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like really cool because it's like, I don't know, like, because I feel like too, sometimes you feel like to be happy, you have to almost like take the person that passed away out of your life.
Right.
Sometimes like you almost have to like forget about them for a little bit.
Yeah.
You like, and you feel guilty because you don't want to forget their memory, but you feel like you can't be, sometimes you just like can't get that joy. So it's like really good to still be able to grieve every day and like keep that, I don't know. I always just thought that was cool. I'm going to be honest, I haven't lost a person like crazy close to me.
Right.
The miscarriage really shook me up because I didn't grieve. And then like months later it hit me, and I was like, I felt like I couldn't talk about it to people. I felt weird.
Right.
And like that was probably the closest thing. So I just thought it was cool that it talked about that, like with people.
I think there's a quote. I don't know if someone just told me or if it's a quote that goes around like the internet, but grief is love with nowhere to go. Yeah. So, or like unexpressed love, you know? So I think grief is healthy. It's never going to go away. It'll just become like more manageable, or the sad memories will become happy memories because now you're like reminiscing and not like, oh, I'm never going to get to do this again. Again, it's the reality situation. You're not going to get to do those things. Yeah. And that's okay. But don't let that turn like other new memories sour because that person's not here for them, you know? Yeah. Which has been like a hard pill for me to swallow. Like, it's not fun, you know? But again, for me, I'm very logical. So it's the reality situation. I can't change it. So how are we going to move forward with this being like the new reality? Yeah. You know?
No, I think that's really good. So like, how was it for you, her, like in her sick days? Like did you like when it got close, did you like know it was coming, and like, did you start grieving early? Like, how was it for you when she was sick?
So
she was sick for so long.
I know. Yeah. For like most of last year. I was like hopelessly naive because I was like, oh, she beat it twice. My mom's a superhero. She's gonna beat it a third time.
I'm not gonna lie. Your mom like held her crap together.
I know.
Like she did. I'm not gonna lie. She's one of the strongest people that I have like ever met in my life. And those types of people though, it's so annoying because you're just like, why God? Like, why does she's so tough and like so loving and like didn't let it show. And like, why are those the people that like get knocked down? Right. You know what I mean? Like,
well, she never complained. No. You know, she never, at least to me, my dad says she did, but you know, that's a different relationship, you know, husband and wife versus mother-daughter, but like never complained. Never asked like, God, why me? You know, it was just like, okay, this is my cross to bear and it is what it is. And it's just like, how do you walk through life being so positive with a cancer diagnosis? Like, I don't understand that. Yeah. And
it's inspiring, honestly. Yeah.
Well, like when she was initially diagnosed back in 2014, Was it 20? No, I guess it would have been 2012. I take that back. It was 2012 that she was initially, because we were freshmen.
Yeah, I know we were in high
freshmen.
school.
Yeah, so that would have been 2012. The years and days just all run together now. 2012.
It's crazy how long ago.
I know. Oh, that is.
Like how long ago that was.
We're getting old.
I know. It was over 10 years ago.
I know.
12 years ago. That's crazy.
Yeah. So she started doing research, like when they found cancer in 10 of the 11 lymph nodes in her arm. Like if you look at statistics, it's like a 5% chance of survival past 5 years. We got almost 10, you know?
Yeah.
So, and after she was reading that, she would say like, I would scroll through that and go, I'm not going to be a statistic like that. I'm not going to let that define me. And it's just like, okay, woman, like good on you, you know?
I know.
She only cried a couple times that I remember. And yeah, but just super, super strong through all of it. It was amazing to see how many people would just cut like that you needed there and they would be there for you. I got to pray over her so much. And like I was super in my word like during that with just like different psalms and stuff like that. My pastor and his wife would drive an hour, you know, to the hospital to sit there and pray with her and just talk to her. But yeah, she was like super, super strong through all of that. For me, it was like, it was part of my job. Like I was working 12-hour shifts and I was usually mostly overnight. So it's like I would get off of work and I would go to the hospital or I would go home and I'd help my mom with what she would need and I would sleep for a couple hours until my dad got home, like doing stuff, and then I'd wash, rinse, repeat for that couple of months. So like there's not a lot I remember because I was so exhausted during all of that time. But it was just like a job. Like I just did what I had to do. So for me, it wasn't a ton of like sadness or grief. It was just like this, again, I have to deal with it. Reality, the nurses need to, you know, they have other patients going on. They need to know stuff. My mom's asleep. We're not waking her up. I'll talk to you instead type of deal. We all kind of had shifts. My mom was never alone. Like from 8 in the morning to 8 at night when visitors were allowed, someone was there with her, which like the doctors like commended her so much for that. I was always wearing apparently I have a Seek Jesus like hoodie. Yeah. And I would wear that and the nurses would come and be like, can I pray? Can I pray for your mom? Can I pray with your mom? One of the doctors, his wife writes gospel music and is like, can I give you a song to listen to? Like, and can I pray with you guys? So like, it was just super cool to see all of these people who maybe normally wouldn't have offered that because they don't want to get in trouble or whatever that are offering to pray or, you know, you're on my prayer list at church. It's like, we don't even know you. We don't go to your church, you know? So that was like super uplifting for me. And again, like I was just naive in the sense of like, she's going to beat it. She's going to come home. Yeah. And then when they said hospice, I was like, shit. Like, okay, this is it.
Yeah. This is like real now.
But like, even like with hospice, like they were so supportive to like get her comfortable to like whatever she needed. Yeah. Like I said, called Skylar that night and she was there the next day. You know, she talked to her husband and he's like, you go, we'll figure it out. Yeah. It's like, I'm super grateful for like all the relationships and the friendships that I have that people would just do that. They would just drop. I don't have a lot of friends, but the quality of friends I have is like wonderful.
No, it's good to have.
So yeah, but I think that's like the end, like how it was with her being in the hospital. Like just, it was like a job. It was part of like what I had to do every day. Yeah. You know, I'd go to work. And I go to the hospital. I go to work.
Yeah.
I go to the hospital.
And honestly, though, I think sometimes, like I don't know. I hate talking about God like he's like this like man up above who like moves people around like puzzle pieces, like chess pieces in a game. Right. But I do think that like sometimes things happen the way they do, and like we almost like get busyness. And like sometimes that's like a good thing to help us like prepare for the season and like to get us through that season. Yeah. Because like I'm sure if you weren't so busy, that would have felt like a extremely long. Right. Like hospice would have felt like extremely long and like everything would have felt long and like stretched out, which I'm sure it did feel like that, but it would have felt even probably a lot longer and you would have been exhausted either way, mentally and emotionally or physically. Right. And so I just think that's like really good. And I think that like too, like God does put people in our past. And like when I was in the hospital and I had a lot of things going wrong, I don't remember much because I always say, I swear, like, the only way I got through it was God put this, like, weird thing. Like, I just had this weird piece about me and that I can't explain. And I just was, like, it was like I was just sitting there watching life happen. Right. I didn't feel any emotion. I wasn't, like, upset. Now, don't get me wrong. When I got out of the hospital, it was, like, a mental disaster. Right. But, like, the things I do remember, though, were the nurses coming in and saying, my church is praying for you, because they'd hear us playing worship music. And I think too, like as Christians, that's like so important to do. Like when you see someone like that, to like be that to be like, hey, like I love God and I don't know what to say in this moment, but I'm here for you and I'm praying for you and
Right.
I see you and God hears our prayers. Just like little things like that.
Yeah.
I think like too, as Christians, like it's so important to remember to do. And I hope like people hearing this will realize like don't stop doing that. And
Right.
like when you see people, like it does make an impact.
Yes.
And it does help. And because I think it's so easy sometimes to be like, well, like they don't care.
Yeah, or like I'm gonna pray for you and then you forget. I like my thing for that. I encourage people so much to just pray in the moment. Like if someone comes and tells me something, like like, let me pray for you. Let's pray right now. You know, even if it's a quick like 2-sentence prayer, that's fine. You know, God hears all of it. God sees our heart. But instead of like forgetting about it, like, oh, I'll pray for you, and people are like, oh, okay, like. Did
you actually like pray?
Right. Or like, okay, what is that going to do for me? You know, maybe that's the encounter that they need to have, you know, is you praying with them right there in that moment. You know, just God have your protection around them or give them the clarity they need through the situation, whatever it may be, you know. That's been helpful for me in my prayer life where it's like, oh, I'll pray about that later. I'll add that to my to-do list. No, just pray about it in the moment. God's your best friend.
Yeah.
So talk to him. Like God gets a stream of consciousness. God, I'm mad I burnt my toast this morning. God, I'm mad that I'm late for work. God, I'm mad about this. God, I'm thankful for this. God, thank you for this beautiful day. You know, he just gets to hear all of it. I'm sure it's hilarious to him. Like, you're going to talk to me about this stuff, but I'm sure he enjoys it, you know? And that's, people need to understand too. It's not always like a wish list. My mom and I talk about that a lot. When we're praying, like when you get to like your third I want or I wish, like God's not a genie that you're like, I get 3 wishes and it's going to be granted regardless. We'll see our prayers answered. It may not be in this lifetime. Yeah. You know? And
that's so true.
So just for like, when she would say, oh, I wish I felt like this, or I wish, and she's like, no, I'm thankful that I'm still here. I'm thankful that I have a family that loves me and that will sit in the hospital room with me, even though we're not doing anything. We're watching movies all day. You know, I'm thankful for, and she would just take those I wants or I wishes as like, you know, your wish list, your Christmas wish list, and turn it into like, I'm thankful for this. So that's definitely changed my prayer life, like with my mom, knowing that she wasn't even at the end going like, oh, I wish I didn't have cancer. It was like, I'm thankful that I have a family that loves me. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm pretty sure everyone else would be going, I wish I didn't have cancer.
Yeah. It's so true.
Okay, Mom. So, yeah.
She knew where her real treasures lied. Yeah. And that's like what made the difference.
Oh,
and,
for sure.
You probably don't know, you obviously your mom can share as much as she wants with you, but like deep down though, like you don't know like her last thoughts of like you and your sister and your dad, and you probably don't even know how thankful she was that you guys were so steadfast and that you made it so easy for her because she didn't have to worry about you. Yeah, like you were like praying for her. She knew you were there. Like I'm sure she's like so proud of you and like so proud of you and your sister and your dad and like how you guys were there and your friends and family that rallied. Like it gave her the ability to have peace in the situation. Yes. Yeah, and she didn't have to worry about you guys. Yeah. And even though as a mom, like speaking as a mom, you want your kids to know nothing that like I always like Anais too, and I always have like mental breakdowns because I'm like overwhelmed or overstimulated by this little 2-year-old who like now doesn't shut up and ask why or what. Like literally I'd be like, Anaya, she'll be like, what? And I'm like, do not talk to me like that. You're 2 years old. But like I get overstimulated sometimes, and I'm like the other day I literally told her, or no, it was Matt told her to shut up, and he looked at me and I like saw his face, like his heart like break telling her that, like, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, but it like made me like sit and think, and I was like, it's so hard, like, as a parent, because you, like, it's hard to not portray, like, or betray, or whatever the word is, like, on your kids, like, to put it all on your kids and, like, unload it. Like, you have to hide it. Yeah. But, like, at the same time, though, it's hiding everything necessarily healthy. Right. And I think your mom did such a good thing of, like, telling you, like showing, like, I'm in pain, but I'm taking it to God. Yeah. And, like, I'm not going to just say I'm doing something. Like, I'm going to live it out. And, like, she, like, her life is a testimony of her living her faith out and, like, trusting God fully. Yes. I just said, like, 10,000 times. I literally just caught myself. But I wanted to ask you, too, like, since we're on the topic, how has this, like, impacted your faith life? Because I feel like it's so easy to be like, God, why did you let this happen? And obviously, like I said, God, I do thank God allows things to happen, and he does intervene, and we don't always necessarily know why.
Yeah.
He intervenes for some people and he doesn't for other people.
Right.
But in the end, God is like a loving person who he's a father and he loves us. And like being a parent now, like I've even seen Anaya does things, and sometimes like her fingers, we tell her like we're like always yelling at her about where she's putting her fingers and like what she's doing. But sometimes I'm like, girl, gotta learn.
Right.
And like,
yeah.
like
gotta touch the stove sometimes to learn the stove is hot. Because I've only told you 100 times, don't touch the stove because it's hot. Yeah.
Let me tell you, I'm thankful that God has more patience than me.
Yes.
Because if I was God, it would not be a good thing. We'd all be screwed.
Girl, same.
But like it definitely losing someone like that. It's so easy. Like it does shake your faith for a second, no matter what.
Yeah, I think in the moment, my faith was like really strong because I had like my church family is so strong.
Yeah.
And they were there like with me for all of it. So and like seeing my mom's faith at the end, like just speaking her peace and her truth, made it super, super easy for me to like, okay, like God's got this, God's in control.
Yeah.
That's fine. And it's like, again, you kind of get distracted or people like take you under their wing. Like Christmas Eve, I went to service with my pastor and his wife before we did like our church service. New Year's Eve, I went to one of like my church ladies' houses and she had me over and we did gingerbread houses with her family. So they just made sure I was like taken care of and I wasn't going to be doing these like holidays and stuff alone, which I super appreciated. There are definitely moments though where I'm like, I'm mad at God or I want to be mad at God. Yeah. I don't think I'm genuinely mad at God. I'm more frustrated, I think is the right word.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why?
Yeah.
Like, she didn't deserve that. There are people that like don't have relationships with their mothers. Why? And like, I would never wish that on anyone. No, let's just clarify this first. I would never wish this on anyone. But it's like, you don't have a relationship with your mother. Why couldn't she be going through this?
Yeah.
It would be no skin off your back right now. Why take away my mom?
Yeah.
My best friend. Like,
no, that's so real.
It's also like, what did I do to deserve that? Not just like, what did my mom do? And those are all very loaded things to say because you look at salvation. What did Jesus do?
Yeah.
You know, he came to save the world and he was crucified for it.
Yeah. And that's the hard thing about being a Christian, like having God too, is like when you have the Holy Spirit and like he's like whispering something to you, but then like your human flesh is just like what, like it's hard navigating it. And I think that is why grief is so hard too for so many people, because you almost feel like you're not allowed to fully grieve,
right?
And like have grief. You feel like you have to like hold it all together, and like you feel like you're not allowed to question God sometimes.
Yeah.
But I 100% like there's so many stories in the Bible of like if you, especially like looking at David and like how he talked to the Lord, and it's like he talked to him like he was a person, and like he told him how he felt, and he was upset, and like he did ask God why. Yeah. Like there's so many people in the Bible that ask God why, and I think like you're a lot like God. I don't think is like mad at you.
No,
for asking why.
A third of the Psalms is lamenting, is crying out to God, going, "Why? Why are we doing this? Why do I feel this way? Why did you take this from me?" You know. So I don't think people realize like how much grief there is and how much like literature in the Bible there is that can help you through these things. Yeah. It's easier said than done. You know, if I'm feeling sad, I'm gonna turn on sad music and cry some more. You know, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, let's make a logical decision to feel better about myself." You know. But yeah, definitely frustrated with God and like, why did you do that to her? She didn't deserve that. But at the end of the day, like, but like our cost for sin is death, you know? Yeah. And so rightly we deserve Jesus' death and worse, you know? And thankfully we don't have to go through that. We don't have to have that because Jesus did come and die for our sins. Yeah. But it's still hard to like reconcile that when you see like only the good in someone. And like, people may only see the good in you when you're out, like in day to day. When you're at home, you get to see, like, you know yourself better than anyone else, you know, besides God. So you get to see all the ugly truth, you know, and things that maybe you don't want to show people or like show to the world. So I don't know. I think it's easier to be like, oh, I definitely can be punished because I deserve it because I'm this terrible person because I know myself. But then you see someone, you're like, but they're so good. Why did they get, you know, they have their own baggage too that they had to go through in life. But yeah, I think my faith has been, I would say mostly okay. I definitely have not been in like my Bible or praying as much as I should. Yeah. Life gets busy. There's just things that I can't like bring myself to do. But I have a really great accountability partner at church, Kelly. She's great. We do Bible studies together. She's always texting me checking up on me. Beverly is the same way. Always checking in on me, make sure that I'm good. Anything that I need, like, you need to go get coffee, you need to go talk, you need to go hug it out. Like, I got you. Whatever it is, whatever we can do for you. So that's been like super, super helpful.
Yeah.
With everything. I call them my church moms. So like mom's like a title, right?
Yeah.
So I have my church moms, I have my work mom, you know. So my mom may be gone like physically, but I have like her living through like everyone in my life, you know, through that title of like someone that's going to take care of me, lead me, teach me, mentor me, you know. So gone but not forgotten, I guess. I don't know when it comes to like having motherly figures in my life, which has been great too.
Yeah. But. And you know, that only happens because people are like, those women in your life are being like obedient to God. And they're like opening their hearts, and they're like I feel like too, even I like sitting here hearing you like talk, even I'm not gonna lie, I feel like super guilty for the way like I treat people with like grief in my life, even like people who've lost people, because it's like as a Christian, we're called to like love one another and like be, and like you said, community is so important. And like me and Matt, that is like such our heart is like community. Like when like we always say, when you're like trying to bring someone to God, like it shouldn't just be like, hey, do you want God? And then like you like be mad at people for not believing in God. Like, no,
you love them to
like,
Jesus.
Yes. And you should like, it's a relationship. Like God, we preach and preach and preach about how God is a relational God, not this God of like rules and like he's just like sitting up there waiting for you to mess up to call you out. Like he's not that kind of God. Like he loves you and he cares for you. And like when you're hurting, he knows your thoughts. He knows the hairs on your head. Like we say that, but it's like, but do we treat people like that?
Yeah.
No. In all honesty, like no. We expect so much out of people. And like we don't like, you know what I mean? Like it's so, and like I don't know, just hearing you say, like hearing you talk, like it's made me feel like so guilty because I'm like, what am I doing? And like I like know Brad's in here recording us, but it's like Brad is my brother-in-law, and it's like how many times have I asked him, how are you doing? Like how are you? Like Christmas is on Wednesday, like how are you doing? And it really like made me feel guilty because I'm like even you, like have I texted you and been like, hey Sarah, like you know what I mean? Like,
but like the reality of it is like people are busy, and like your life does not revolve around mine.
I know. No,
you know what I mean? You're married, you have a child, you run multiple businesses. You know what I mean? So I don't take it any type of way.
No,
I appreciate any people that follow up with me. Like I appreciate it.
Yeah, you
like
don't expect it.
My chosen family has been like so amazing.
Yeah.
They check on me constantly. I have people that will just text me out of the blue, like, hey, if you need anything, like I'm here. I'm thinking about you more. Love you, miss you. Like, you know, whatever. My work mom though, Courtney, she is like, we've been like fast friends. We've been friends for like 4 months, and it feels like we've been friends for years.
I love people like that though.
Yeah.
Like God has definitely brought people in seasons of life with me and Matt, and it's the worst when they leave. So
yeah.
Like, hopefully she doesn't leave you anytime soon.
Don't say that. Oh, God. Oh, no.
We have these friends who, they came here. They helped plant a church with us. San Antonio, I'll name drop them because I love them to death. They came here. We, like, clicked with them so much. And they got called to missions. And I was like, really, God? Like, what the frick? Like, you're not allowed to take those people from me. Yeah. They're my friends. Like, and that's another thing. Like, that's a whole other process of grieving. But, like, because they don't live in the United States anymore. And we, like, we just saw them. They just came in. They came back for, like, Christmas time. And we just saw them. And then saying goodbye to them, I, like, told Matt, I was, like, I, like, had to, like, have no emotion, like, saying goodbye to them. But they were people that we literally, like, met one day. So we met them through, like, FaceTime. Okay? Through another friend. Me and Matt were in Ohio where they lived, like, near Columbus. Mm-hmm. We had a wedding out there. Randomly texted them, was like, hey, can we come see you? Like, and neither of us had kids at the time. So we literally went and saw them. Like I said, met them through another friend on FaceTime. Didn't really meet them. Met them like one time in person. And we instantly like hit it off with them. We stayed at their house. Like we barely knew them. We stayed at their house. They like showed us where they live and stuff. I'm pretty sure they're from like Mansfield area. Okay. But it's like those people though are so... Like, those are the most impactful people that are...
hold on to them. And, like, those relationships will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
You know?
They're so good.
And that's... So, I remember being at work. It was, like, a night turn. And I was like, I need mom advice. And, like, I love Skylar to death. We're the same age. Mom advice for a 7-year-old. Mom advice for a 26-year-old.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
And I love Kelly and I love Beverly, but I just needed like, I don't know, my work mom. And so I texted Courtney and I was like, next time you're on shift, we need to talk. And she's like, oh, I'll step outside right now. I'll call you right now. And I'm like, oh, I'm not ready for a phone call, but okay. She calls me. I'm crying on the phone. I like trauma dump everything on her. She's like, I didn't even know your mom passed away. I was like, I know, I didn't tell anyone. And now I'm feeling like whatever.
Yeah.
And that was it. Then it's like the couple days later, she's like, hey, you want to go get breakfast after work? And we've been inseparable ever since then. And I work in Elwood. And most people that I work with live in Elwood.
Yeah.
So I assumed Courtney also lived in Elwood. She does not. She lives 5 minutes from me. So
that's so funny.
Yeah. And I had like a real bad day on Sunday. And I just texted her. I was like, what are you doing today? She's like, nothing. I said, do you want to come over and just like hang out? And she was like, okay. And just came over, let me cry, hugged me. We sat on my couch and watched the stupid Hallmark Christmas movies like all day. Yeah. And then she went home, made dinner, and I went over her house to eat dinner.
That's so funny.
And we sat on the couch and talked about life and cried some more and watched more Hallmark movies. And like, she's just such a great person. And she has a strong faith too. So I'm so glad that not only is she in my life, but she also has a relationship with God. Because again, it's not someone else to hold you accountable when it comes to those things, you know? Yeah,
no, for sure. And it's hard to get advice from people who don't have that faith that you have.
Right.
Like, there's nothing wrong with getting advice from them, but it's just...
It's different.
It is different. And sometimes, like, when you're doubting your faith and, like, when you have survived off of your faith for... Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you follow God... you survive off of your faith. Like, everything you do is out of your faith. Mm-hmm. So when you're doubting it and it almost like you like are trying to remove it from your life, you need a person who's going to put it back in.
Right.
Because that's the missing piece of who you are. Like, it becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
And, cause like I would never say, like, that's one thing. Like, I would never say someone who isn't a Christian or doesn't believe in God, or like I would never say they don't have valid input or like they can't give good advice. Like, no, they can give good advice, but when you're losing your faith or when your faith is tested or your faith is
you need someone who understands. Yeah.
Yes, you need someone who's going to be like, hey, that's what's missing. Like, let's put that back in.
Right.
And you're allowed to be mad at God. You're allowed to be upset. Yeah. You're allowed to ask questions.
Yeah.
But let's get back into his word and what he says, and let's hold on to these truths, because in the end, that's what's gonna, after you've overcome this season of life, when this week of grief, when you overcome it, and in 2 weeks you're feeling good again, you're gonna be thankful that you're gonna be happy that they pulled you back in and like held you accountable and held you together.
Well, and that's like something too, is like you feel, and maybe this is just me, but like you said, feeling guilty. Like, I feel like a bad Christian sometimes when like I'm not praying and I'm not in the Word. It's just a season of not being like productive with my faith. And then, like, you're dealing with these things where you don't maybe feel a little backslidden, or just, like, I'm mad at God, or I'm frustrated, I don't have motivation to go to church, or, like, I feel like I'm not living the life that I should be, that I know God has called me to live, because I am just, like, so deep in my grief right now that I can't, like, see a way out of it, and the only way I can see out of it is a distraction, which has definitely been, like, the season that I've been in the last month is just, like I said, distraction. And I had a really great conversation with Kelly about that this week. And she's like, no, like, everyone goes through those periods. Like, it's really, like, it's okay. And God knows your heart at the end of the day. You know, you can't hide from him, you know?
No, I know.
So he knows your heart anyway, which is a comfort to know that, like, even if I'm not being honest with myself, like, he still knows and sees me.
Yeah.
I think and that doesn't make you a bad Christian. Like, everyone struggles. Everyone's going to slip up.
Yeah.
You know, we're not perfect. You know, if we were perfect, there would be no need for salvation. So
yeah, no, it's just so true.
I guess that's also another comfort, you know, with faith. Everything comes back to comfort. You know, it sucks in the moment, but God is definitely there for us through everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So
yeah, no, and it's good to know that there is someone that when you walk away, like, I don't know, like with people, when you walk away from people in your life, when you come back, you don't know if they're going to be there. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't know. We can't control other people.
Right.
But like, it's like we're living, like, I mean, I'm living proof that I go, I've gone months mad at God, and I come back and he's still the same God, and like didn't change, and like he's still loves me. And I think too, like, I definitely think we're in a time right now where people are really about like feelings and emotions, and we're very in tune with our feelings and emotions, and everything on like TV and just like teachings even now, I feel like are all on, like, we have a big feeling generation going on right now, like, or it's like a big thing going on right now. And I feel like with God, where it's almost like when we don't feel him, it's like, oh, like, you almost doubt him.
Right.
Or it's like, what's like, he's not doing anything in my life. So like, is he even real? And you question him
Right.
and whatnot. And I think the great thing about God is when you think that, or you feel that, or you're like, I don't feel God, so he's not real, or he's not there, or I don't need him in my life. When you like get over that in a year, or when someone calls you out for it, or when you hear someone speaking, like, first off, he put those little reminders in your life for you to hear that, to come back to him. And then second, he's still there. Like nothing changed. Like he's not holding it above your head. He's not like, oh, well, you did this, so you need to read like 10 chapters of your Bible. Like to make up for it. Yeah. And I think like too, I had a girl on my podcast, Courtney, and she is a newer Christian, and she was talking about how on TikTok she got into doing like these little Bible studies on her, or like she was reading through the Bible and stuff, and she was doing it on TikTok live, and she was like, became like such a task. And it was like, oh my God, like she was like, I had to come up with something to say. And she talked about how she finally was like, okay, like I need to stop this. Right. This is becoming like it's not coming about God, it's becoming about like me and like my TikTok followers. And so she actually like completely changed it. And she said, sometimes I just open my Bible, I'll read on TikTok live, and then I'll ask people for their input, if they have anything to say, if they have anything to add that can teach me. And she's like, and that's been about my relationship with God, not other things. And I like thought that was like so cool that she said that, because I do think it's so easy to get like be hard on ourselves, right? To be like, oh, I'm not praying every day. And me and Matt always laugh because our daughters, like, we're so blessed for her, but she's like kind of annoying because she like loves God, and like I'm always like, I did nothing. Like it's like crazy how like the childlike faith, like she literally is a definition of childlike faith, right? And like when we eat, she'll like yell at us for not praying. That's great. Like she'll be like, Mama, pray. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I guess you are right. And I'll like say my quick little fake prayer. And then she'll like I always say, I swear, like the Holy Spirit like speaks through her, because sometimes I don't know what she's saying. And she'll just like say something, and like you don't understand what she's saying at all, because she's talking like toddler talk. And then she'll be like, okay, amen. And I'm always like, why do we complicate it so much? Like I look at her and like she is 2 and somehow like understands. Right. Like how is that even possible? Yeah. And even like she'll yell at us for like having our eyes open. Like today I called Matt to pray with him in the car because I just felt heavy on my heart. And I was like, hey, do you want to call Dad? I like, Mommy wants to pray with Daddy. Do you want to pray with him? She's like, yeah. And I'm driving, and she's in the back seat, and she's like, she's forward facing now. So because she's 2, and she's like, Mama, close your eyes.
No, we're gonna die.
Like, Mama, eyes. I was like, Mama's driving. Like I have to pay attention. And it was so like, funny. It's just like the little things in life, like, and like the way she'll like just randomly like she can. I'm not gonna lie. My mother-in-law says she's gonna be a worship leader. I don't know. She's really off key, so I don't know.
She's little. She's got time.
There's hope for her. She loves singing. And I'll put worship music on. She'll like it'll be a new song, or like I'll just like shuffle like Maverick City music or Upper Room, and I'll just shuffle it in my car while we're driving. And she'll like sing, and I'm like, what is she even singing? Like she's never heard this song in her life, and it's so funny. Like she just like sings, and she'll just be like, God, Jesus, and I'm like, and I just like laugh to myself, but then it just makes me then I just sit and think, and I'm like, there's that. Like she's just talking to God. Yeah. And why do we make it as adults? We just make it like we get so hard on ourselves, and we compare. And social media, I even think in the Christian world, is like annoying, because I get on here and I'm like, oh, look at this person like they post a picture of their Bible, and which it's not a bad thing to post a picture of your Bible. But like I'll be like, oh, like yeah, there they go, reading their Bible again with toddlers, must be nice. Like, but in reality, like it's probably not like realistic. You know what I mean?
It's so funny you say that, because last Friday, I think it was last Friday, I had sat down, we were going through women's ministry for my church for 2025. Mm-hmm. I'll be leading some of the split sessions. So for like the women's teaching, I'll be helping do that this year. So we were going through picking our topics, what lessons we're going to do, scheduling that out, who's going to do what when. And our theme for 2025 is Christ, not comparison. Because that's everything we do. We compare. Social media is a highlight reel.
Oh, I know.
No one's posting about how awful they feel like their lives are, and they're so miserable, and they just had a fight with their spouse and blah, blah, blah. No, they're going to post like, oh my gosh, we just went and did this, and we're so happy, and we're so excited. And then a year later, they're divorced, and we're like, they seem so happy. Well, it was a highlight reel. We're only seeing, the positives. Same thing with kids and, people's whatever's, you know, they're going to post the good things. They're not going to post the bad things. Understandably so.
Yeah.
I don't think people would want to be that vulnerable to strangers on the internet. Some people do,
Yeah.
whatever, to each their own. But we have to understand that it is a highlight reel, and we can't compare like, oh, I wish I looked like her, or I wish I had all of this, that, or the third, because it's not genuine, I guess.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, there's more to it. There's more story that we don't get to see. So again, finding your identity in Christ and looking, you know, at God and his plan for you and living that truth and being content with that. You may not be happy, but you can be content with it, you know?
No,
that's been like a big lesson, but we're going to cover that in my church at 2025. So I'm so excited for that. So it's funny you say comparison because we're digging into that this year.
It's really good because it's so needed, especially like I look at Matt. Well, I guess it's technically my niece too, but like Matt's niece that became my niece. She's 17, and I don't know, like my heart like secretly hurts for her because I don't know. I always tell Matt I want to have her on my podcast because I feel like it'd be like people would be like, oh, like, but my heart like hurts for her because I can't imagine the like how you have to feel now with social media. Like, because when we were in school, we got in trouble for having our phones out, and now it's like they don't really care. And like even like I know I have friends who have kids in Beaver, and they're just like popping iPads out to people like it's like free candy, and they don't understand. Like, there's no child locks on these things, and it's like these kids are seeing things, and it's like there's so much think how without growing up in that, how much pressure we feel to be perfect. Like, I can't even imagine how much they're gonna feel it, and it's just
she
like
has the newest iPhone. She's getting her nails done.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Why don't I get that? You know.
I know.
Like, I think the hardest comparison for me is like I feel like I'm doing everything right. Why don't I have the newest house or the newest car or you know, whatever?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Why are you blessing them?
Yeah.
Or are they even Christians? So why are you, you know?
I know.
So I think that's the hardest
That's a real good one because I think every Christian girl has thought that.
Yeah. And that's so selfish. And like,
or even
that's
like
definitely the flesh speaking, you know, but it's real. You know, it's like, oh, why did they get to be married and have kids? Or why did I have to go through this? You know, that's the life I wanted, but I didn't get it, you know? So, or that's not the season that I'm in right now, or whatever the case may be. But we constantly compare ourselves to each other, and we should be lifting each other up. We shouldn't be taking each other down for that. We should be like, congratulate, like, I'm so happy for you. Yeah. And that be like a genuine thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I know. And honestly, like, being completely like raw, real, blunt is that like takes work and a lot of prayer. Like, a lot of prayer.
Humble.
And I remember my mom when I was in high school, and like I used to like say something about like another girl, or like I would tell her how I'd feel about something, or like so and so got favored by this, and like I had to work like triple hard, or like anytime I felt like that, my mom would always be like, okay, well, you can't like talk about them again until you pray for them.
Yeah.
And like, are you praying for that person? Like, and I remember my mom like telling me like, when you pray for people, like it changes your heart.
Oh, for sure.
And because you can't think about thought about them when you're bringing them to God.
Yeah.
And when you're praying for that, like praying for like their well-being and like good things over them, you can't like, you're not focusing on the bad, and it changes your heart and your perspective.
Yeah.
And you know, some people do like, and I've come to learn like people do like, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and you don't know everybody's like hurt. And like you said, it took you a while to tell people at work about your mom, and you don't know what people are going through, what they fought for. But it's really hard. I know like my sister personally too, like she struggled for a while with like not finding a guy.
Yeah.
Cause especially
she's so young, and
oh my gosh, especially in the Christian community though, it's like
it's so hard.
I told her, I was like, I added to the statistic. I got married at 22 and popped out a kid at 25. But at the same time though, it's like on social media, everybody saw me announce my pregnancy, and no one knew that I tried a little over a year for our daughter, that it was hard not having our daughter like right away, not getting pregnant right away. And they didn't know, like I didn't tell a lot of people. My mom loved to tell people about the miscarriage. Thank you, Becky. But like that was really hard for me to like tell people, because I didn't want people to feel bad for me, because I felt like I wasn't allowed to be upset about it.
Yeah.
And like just different things like but you don't know those things that happen. You're just like, oh, she met her boyfriend in high school, like good for her.
Yeah.
But like you don't know like how hard it was sticking with that good relationship, and being a Christian young
Right.
in a relationship and like having to wait to get married. Like, trust me, I want to get married at like 18.
Right.
I thought it was stupid that we dated. I was like, this is so stupid. Like, why are we not in Bible times? So they got married at like 16. Because I hated I admit I hate being alone. Like, that's one thing that I always say God brought him out in my life because I hate being alone. God knew I was always going to be with a retarded boy. Sarah knows. And,
Oh my goodness.
and so many retarded boys. But it's okay. God loves them all. They taught me lessons. But I always say that, like, literally, like, God knew that I was going to go down a bad path if I didn't meet Matt, because there was no way I was not having a boyfriend. But because I hated being alone. I was not good at being alone. But I still am bad at it. I'm still bad at, like, sitting in my thoughts. Like, being a stay-at-home mom was really hard for me because I recorded another podcast that's not going to get released for a while, but I was talking to a girl. We were talking about like her singleness, and I was telling her like I give people props for that because like I could not do it. I struggled being a stay-at-home mom, like sitting in my thoughts. I'm so like I always tell Matt I'm mental that I can't be alone for too long because I just like get like sad or I overthink, and which is something like I've personally been working on. But it is like
I need the time to like recharge. Like, I like to have the quiet time to like myself to like recharge and do something. Like my social battery just gets drained around certain people, not like everyone, but like
there definitely are people that like suck the life out of you.
Yeah, just like, okay, thanks for coming over, but I'm gonna go sit alone and stare at the wall.
Yeah,
thanks.
I know Matt yells at me because I always say like the TV is like my like. I like to watch movies and like TV shows I get into really easily because I like to just be like brain numb. Like I don't want to watch something that he loves the stuff that like makes you think.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, no.
I need like background noise.
I'm like, no, I need like
give me some stupid reality TV show.
I love and like too, even like he laughs because I love like Jason Segel and stuff. And like his dad was like, even you like him? Like that's such a weird, you're such a like you're a girl, like you think he's funny, and I'm just like, yeah, I love the stupid humor. I don't have to think about it. Like I just like know what's happening, and I don't have to think. I can be mind numb. Like that's my personality, which I think a lot of people get shocked by because I think they think I'd be like offended by it, but I'm like, no, like I like knowing.
Yeah, it's just easy. It's just like a nice distraction.
Yeah,
that's what I when I was having just like quiet time after being like busy for like weekend after weekend after weekend, and I was like, I just need a Saturday to like not do anything. So I got up, and I'm an old lady at heart. Like I probably aged myself into the 80s with like my hobbies. I bake, I have houseplants, I crochet.
Yeah,
weird for a 26-year-old, but whatever.
No, it's not.
So I taught myself to crochet last year, and this year I was working on, I want to make a hat. I'm like really trying hard to make a hat.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there in my living room, and my living room has a nice big bay window, and I have the TV on, and my little like fake fireplace is going, and I'm just watching Jurassic Park because I love dinosaurs. So it's like my comfort movie, and I'm crocheting, and God put it on my heart to just like every stitch something you're thankful for. And I know like prayer shawls are a thing that you pray over while you're crocheting or knitting or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was like something you're thankful for every stitch. And it was like, I'm thankful for my house. I'm thankful for my car. I'm thankful for my dog. I'm thankful for, and you start listing out the people in your life that you're thankful for. I'm thankful that if I want to go to dinner, I don't have to worry about the money that's in my account. Like I am blessed beyond measure, and people wish, you know what I mean? There are people that wish they had that scenario that don't, you know what I mean? So again, you shouldn't compare yourselves, but be thankful for what you do have, and God has blessed you, you know, in measurable ways.
Yeah. I think so.
And what you're living now is a prayer you probably prayed. So anyway, I'm sitting there crocheting, and I'm like, I'm thankful for getting 25 years with my mom. Not everyone has a good relationship with their mom. Not everyone gets 25 years. Some people don't get to know their mother. Some people get to have them for a fraction of that time, you know?
Yeah.
I'm thankful she was my best friend. So like every stitch, I'm thankful for my mom for having her as long as I did. I'm thankful for giving me the opportunity to pray over her. I'm thankful for, and just praying about my mom as I'm doing this row of like stitches after I've done like 50, I'm thankful, you know?
Yeah.
And this cardinal comes to the window and just looks at me. And I don't know how much you believe of like, you know, animals or whatever, but I don't have any cardinals that float around my house. So bird came, looked right in my window, watched me crochet and cry for a couple minutes, and then I watched it, and it like flew off. And I was like, okay, hi mom, like I see you. You came to check on me, like you're here. And the day before that, she, in her last letter to me, she had wrote to like watch for her in the sunbeams, which I thought was, again, so my mom, it's like kind of weird place to like look for you, but okay. We've had the most gorgeous sunsets.
Yeah.
Like a week ago. And it's like every night it was like picturesque movie how the light
Yeah.
was coming through the clouds, and I'm like, oh, hi mom. Oh, hi
Yeah.
mom, you know. So there is comfort in that, I guess, and those are like positive, like happy memories.
Yeah.
So I think they're around, you know, or
Yeah.
God will give you a sign that like I am listening, like I do hear what you're saying.
Yeah. And I even think too, like God gave a sign of like like a rainbow is a sign, like it's one of his promises.
Right.
And I even think like too, like, yeah, your mom might not like physically be reincarnated into a bird.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't think she's actually a cardinal, but
like,
yeah.
If you think about it though, like we don't really like me and Matt always say, like, there is like a spiritual realm, and like there are things that like happen, and you know, like, and I do think God does things, and you never know, like maybe like God knew you needed that, so he had that bird there for you, and that was like a sign that your mom's okay and your mom sees you and knows, like, she's proud of you, and like maybe you just like needed that. Or like you never know, like maybe, I don't know, like there's angels. We don't know what angels look like, you know what I mean? Like some people say they come in the form of people, and then you get these like AI freaking creepy pictures that I hope an angel doesn't look like that, because that freaks the crap out of me. Like, I literally told Matt, I'm like, well, I'm a big scaredy cat. Like, I'm a baby. I'm like, what am I gonna do when I go to heaven? All these AI pictures are freaking me out.
Oh my
like
goodness.
These reels on TikTok. I'm like, I ain't gonna make it. But anyway, but I do think that, like, I think
God gives us signs when we need it, or you know,
it's like a weird thing to say, but I like look at God and like how intentional he is.
Oh, for
and
sure.
like how he speaks to us.
Yeah.
And like it's not always like like a lot of the times it's not verbal that we hear God speaking.
Right.
It's like just like a knowing in our heart. And I think that like by like someone saying to you that like that couldn't be a sign from your mom, or that couldn't be a sign of God. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just say like, but it's God. You know what I mean? Like, but like I would just think like, but God, but like he can do anything. He can do anything he wants to do. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I don't think like, I don't know. Cause I feel like some people get really weird about like, you can't think that way, or like, it's almost like that's a weird thought, like, or that's a weird thing, or like, why would God do that?
Some people believe in the power of crystals and the moon and the stars and all that. I'm going to believe in God. So
send you a cardinal. Yeah. Or give you a beautiful sunset. That, you know, that he knew is special between like you and your mom. Right. So I do think that, like, I agree with you. Like, I think 100%. So to kind of like wrap things up, there was one question that I did want to ask you that I know it's kind of like a sensitive topic. But I wanted to ask you how, like, with the passing of your mom, like, how has your relationship with like your dad and your sister been? Because I know that can be like really hard on family. Right. And like I told you before, you can share what you want. I'm not like, you don't, if you feel uncomfortable.
Well, I'm not going to air like any dirty laundry or anything like that. But yeah, it changes the dynamic. My sister and I love my sister to death. We've just never been very close, and that's okay. We're just two different people, and we have two different value systems in our lives, like things that we want to do, and that's great. And I still love her, and I'll support her with what I can. Yeah. And I'll be there for her. We both grieve in very different ways. Yeah. I like to be very like fix it and like in it. She was very avoidant, and I don't begrudge that her like at all. Yeah. But we did Thanksgiving at her house this year, and that was really good. And I got to see her and just kind of hang out and like veg out. My dad and I have always kind of butted heads, and my mom was always the buffer for that. I'm very strong-willed. I'm not like that oldest daughter, you know, syndrome, whatever. Yeah.
I relate.
Yeah. And so now that my mom is gone, there's not that buffer there. So my dad and I kind of just like go at each other full bore. Yeah. And it's one of those things like we can go fight it out in the parking lot, like two dudes, and then we're good. Yeah. You know? But it's definitely been like navigating like the new normal, like what our relationship is going to be. He hadn't paid a bill in 27 years. Like my mom wrote every single check. Yeah. He didn't know how to transfer money from a checking to a savings on his phone. Like, yeah. You know, and it's just like the last time he did that, he was writing checks and writing deposit slips. Yeah. You know,
the world changed.
The world changed in 27 years. I know, but believe it or not. So I think it's just kind of coming to terms with like what the new normal for us is, like what our relationship and that dynamic looks like. Definitely helping him try to like figure out that stuff, and then like where our priorities are with each other and like how life looks, you know, going forward. Because I have to continue to live my life. You know, I can't bring my mom back. He says the same thing. He can't bring her back, and he wouldn't bring her back in that state. You know. Yeah. So just like life's gonna look like for us. It's hard. He lives in a big farmhouse by himself. You know? That's a difficult thing to do. I've lived on my own since I was 18, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's not like a new normal for me, but living with someone for 27 years, And then not
yeah.
having that anymore, you know, it's just been, I think we all grieve in different ways.
I know.
But it does get hard. Grief either will separate you or it'll bring you closer, or it'll do both. And you're not, you know, you'll have, you know,
Your ups
the highs
and
and the lows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pray about it. Set firm boundaries, I think, is like the big thing. Like, again, you can only control how you feel, you know, and if someone acts in a certain way that makes you feel a certain way, then maybe setting a boundary to help like protect your own peace is what you need to do. And that's really hard with family. But if that's what's necessary to help with grief, and that's something that I would encourage people to do, and that's okay, and it doesn't make you a bad guy. And if they make you feel like you're a villain for that, then that's a whole different issue.
Yeah. No, I know.
But you're gonna reminisce over like the good things, and you know, there's still life to live, so don't let the grief stop you from making new memories.
Yeah.
So
no, I think that's really good too. Like, you don't want to like take away, you can't take away their feelings and their hurt and their
right,
pains.
exactly.
And even though you do things differently, like me and my sister are like very different. We're even almost similar to like you and your sister. We have the same value system, but like we both believe the same for the most part, but we definitely like handle things differently. And I've been with Matt for 10 years now, so it's like Matt, I always say, like, changed me for, like, the better, where, like, I didn't really rely on my parents as much, and I think my sister, like, she always thought she was super independent, but in reality, though, like, she lived with my parents a lot longer, and they always had her because I was always so reliant on Matt, because I met him at 16.
Right.
So, he was always just, like, a part of my life.
Yeah.
But no, I think that was, like, really good, what you said. And then I usually ask everyone for advice at the end, but I feel like this whole entire podcast was like a piece of advice.
Yeah.
And like it was almost like you're kind of like what you did.
Yeah.
So instead and since it's Christmas time, I wanted to end it by asking you, is there anything for like Christmas you're doing to like help keep like any tradition you're keeping that was your mom's, or like anything you're doing special to help like memory, or I don't even know that's a word, remember your mom and like make it special?
Well, holidays have definitely been different. Like Thanksgiving and Christmas, we're kind of just like done doing the pomp and circumstance of like holidays. My mom loved to cook, and she liked to do these like bigger parties and stuff like that. And I still love to do all of those things, but it's just so much work and definitely an emotional toll right now.
Oh yeah.
So we're doing a real casual like Christmas morning. We're gonna all hang out in our PJs all day. We always had fried bread and frikadeles growing up, and it's like a breakfast meat thing. It's from Germany.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, so that's what we always had for breakfast on Christmas. So we're going to do that as kind of like our family tradition. We're getting away from presents. We're all adults now. So it's like, what am I going to get you? We don't all need to exchange like $25 gift cards with each other. So my dad's like, can you just make me some meals for the freezer and we'll call it good? I'm like, yeah, sounds great. Easy enough for me, you know? So that's kind of what we're doing for Christmas. It's going to just be like a little bit more laid back. The first Christmas, it was a little bit more surreal, because she had passed on the 11th, so we had like 2 weeks before Christmas started, and
that's really hard.
She had bought stuff like throughout the year. My mom was like a chronic buyer of stuff. Like when it would go on sale, or she would see something, and then she'd just keep it in her closet. And then Christmas, she wouldn't have to spend all this money, and it would just be done. She didn't have to stress herself out.
Yeah.
So we're opening all these presents that like my mom had bought us.
Oh my gosh.
Throughout like earlier in the year, so that was really hard.
Yeah.
But it's also like an interesting, I guess, experience to be like, oh, I got to have Christmas with my mom the first year she wasn't here, but without like she still got me stuff, you know. So
you got to see like her quirks and like her gifts, and like just like how she loved each and every one of you by what she got you.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, that's really
and
cool.
I know we talked about this before we started recording, but like the advice or whatever, the things not to say to people going through grief is I'm so sorry. Like I used to hate telling people what had happened, because it's like, I'm so sorry. I don't need your pity. Like, you can't fix it. I'm sorry doesn't bring her back, you know? And I guess there really is no good words to say. Like, what would you hope someone would have told you, like, when you miscarried? It's like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. It's like,
oh my gosh, no, I didn't
like,
want to talk about it.
Like, no crap. Like, that was not fun, you know?
I know.
So maybe just, like, being there, you know, for people, anything you need, or just showing up, you know, here's dinner, or here's, you know, if you want to go get coffee, just reaching out. I know you reached out to go get coffee. And I so appreciate that, because sometimes that's all it is like, let's just go take an hour or a half hour or whatever it is. Or you want to talk on the phone, you know? Yeah. So if you see someone go through grief, and it's all well-intentioned, going like, how are you doing, or how are things, you know, like we don't take that, personally I don't take that as like, oh, they're being really insensitive. They know it's a hard time right now.
Yeah.
People are trying their best.
Yeah.
But just being there, I think, is like the best
Yeah.
thing. Like the loudest thing that you can say for someone is just showing up. You know?
And I think like too, just treating them like they're normal. Like I remember like when I had my miscarriage, it was 2 days. It was the 22nd. I had it, December 22nd. I already had everyone's gifts made of how we were going to announce my pregnancy at Christmas. And my mom decided to tell everybody because my cousin had a gender reveal a couple days after Christmas because of like everyone comes in for Christmas.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, you don't have to be here. And I remember being like, can you like shut up? Like, yeah no, like crap. I know I don't have to be here, but I'm choosing to be a good person. And like, I'm choosing to like be good and like be genuine. Like I remember just like praying to God, like, let me be genuinely happy. Like I remember I laugh about it now because it's so like, it's funny, like looking back, but it was like such a, like, that was probably one of the biggest prayers I prayed that year was like, cause there were so many people getting pregnant and like and it was all like accidental and like a lot of accidents happened that year. And I would have like people like try to relate to me by telling me that they tried for like 3 months. And I was like, oh, like you tried for a long time. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like they just say stupid stuff. Like, but you know what though? I always say like through that experience, like it sucks. But I honestly learned, one, it helped me see the importance of community and having prayer warriors around you. Yes. And how important prayer is. Yeah. And how important telling someone you're going to pray for them is. Mm-hmm. And how much it means truly to someone when they're going through a really difficult time, because I know how that felt to me. And I learned just to treat people normal because we don't want to be looked at like there's something wrong with us. Right, yeah, no. Like we're like, it's almost like you're like a science experiment. Like, no, I'm a normal person.
It's like my mom died, let's move on. Like that's not who I am as a person. Like I can still go out, we can still go play mini golf. I don't know like why we're so sad now, but like.
Yeah, or you get the one family member that like helps you reason through your pain. Or like that one person in your life is like,
well, you know, life's gonna be different now. It's like,
how do you feel about that? Like sad? I'm sad.
Like depressed.
Yeah.
Things I can't say out loud or I'll be institutionalized. Yeah.
Like, but it definitely too, like it made me very, I mean, I've always felt like I was a very like, I always felt like I was a pretty thoughtful person. Like I always thought of people and I always like kind of watched what I said or did a lot to make people happy. And like I always like feel like I like had thoughtful, like I was thoughtful, I felt like. But like after having that, it made me like my one cousin's girl or wife at the time, wife, I don't know why I keep saying girlfriend, wife, they were trying to get pregnant and they couldn't. And she, at my gender reveal, like she was hurting from trying and not able to get pregnant. Yeah. And she got me a necklace and it said mama and it had a rainbow on it and it had angel wings. Aww. And I, like to this day, it actually broke like literally a week ago and I was like really sad about it. But like I wore that necklace like I still wear it like almost every day. And like when she did that, like through all her pain, she did that for me. Like I remember just thinking like, it's so easy to like put yourself aside and like selfless. And you know, so many people probably like don't know how to like talk to her or what to say. And even I felt like that. I didn't know what to say to her because she has to be hurting. And I'm sure my pregnancy hurts her because I remember what that felt like. Yeah. And, but like at the same time though, it was like me being like normal and like not trying to fix her. Right. And not trying to like change anything and like, and just like how intentional she was with like the gift she gave me. Like, oh my gosh. Like, and even like now me going through everything that I went through, like in the hospital with Anaya and, like having like a near-death experience, like it changes you for the better. Right. And I think like sometimes it's good to focus on that. Yeah. And not, you know what I mean? And be like, yeah, it sucks. And I still like, I'm not going to lie. Like I'm still getting over everything that happened to me in the hospital. I'm still getting over it because I didn't lose anything, but like I did, like I had to grieve almost like I actually met with my pastor's wife yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And it was funny because I was talking to her and we were talking about a different topic, but she was saying, Amanda, it really sounds like you didn't grieve that season. And sometimes we have to grieve seasons. And it sounds weird to say that, but she said, I don't think you grieved that season. Yeah. And she told me like, and like it made me think like back to what happened in the hospital, back to like every season I've gone through. I'm like, I'm not grieving seasons. I'm not able to move on, and like I'm not able to like deal with I'm not able to deal with it and like continue my life. So, but that was just like one really good thing that I really liked that she always that she told me yesterday. But we got to wrap it up because this is getting really long. Thank you to those who are still listening or watching. But I want to thank you so much for being on here and like being vulnerable. And I know it's like, I mean, this is still fresh for you.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not going to lie. I told Matt about 2 weeks ago. I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago. It was really on my heart to ask you to do this. And I was like, I feel weird. We haven't like talked to, like, I feel like I like feel weird asking. And I'm like, it's such a sensitive topic. Like, and he was like, just ask her. And then I saw you post about your mom, like whenever I text, like I text you like a couple days later.
Yeah.
And Matt was like, I'm telling you, like that was a sign, like you need to text her. And so I'm so thankful that you came on here and you were so vulnerable. And I know people listening to this who are like struggling right now are going to be so thankful.
Yeah, you're not alone in your grief, you know. So.
Yeah, you made people feel very normal, I'm sure. Made me feel normal at least, and I don't really have much to grieve, but I feel normal for my thoughts. But yeah, so thank you.
Yes, thanks for having me.
And I suck at outros, as everybody knows. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. And if you have questions about anything, or you want to add input, or you want to reach out, or you need prayer, please feel free to message or comment. And I would love to pray for you, and we'd love to answer any questions you have if you need help in your time of grief. And I hope everybody has a really Merry Christmas.